we should be good. Hope everybody's doing well on this whatever day it is in your neck of the woods. It's Sunday morning here. It's finally stopped snowing, I think, but it seems pretty icy out and they haven't plowed my street yet, so that's fun. So yeah, that's pretty much what's going on here. What else have we got? We've got a lot of people here in the show already, 110 already. That's pretty cool. Good morning from, good afternoon from Portugal and Poland, Belgium, California, North Dakota, East London. Greetings from a rainy Gothenburg. Frankie Lee Bailey says, really loving the new camera. Well, thanks. I messed with the contrast and stuff a little bit too, and the exposure or whatever, and so it's working out pretty well so far. Good afternoon from Newcastle under Lyme in the UK, Mexico City, Wales, Denmark, Brisbane, Australia, Cancun, Mexico. Good morning from Columbus, Ohio, after working a 13-hour up bright and early to chat, listen, and finish my newest Last Days Survivor group. I've got the Last Days book, and I really love the artwork, and the rules that I've read so far I've enjoyed, and I watched a good portion of a bat rep actually on Ash's channel, so I'm glad that that's doing really well for him. Belfast, Ireland, North Carolina, Waterford, Ireland, got a bunch of Ireland today, Netherlands, Peru, Phoenix, what else have we got? South Jersey, got Sydney checking in. Got Pontiac, Illinois, Derbyshire, Darwin, Australia, Yorkshire, Brazil. Gary McNally says, that is a snazzy camera. It rings out the individual hairs on your beard. Yes, it is. This is I started using it last time. It's a newer, well, it's not a webcam at all. It's actually like a normal interchangeable lens type camera, but I can plug it into my computer, and my computer will think that it is a webcam. And so there's a lot more stuff you can do. It makes a nice, soft, kind of blurry background, like you see. And so, yeah, it's been working out pretty well. What else have we got? Good morning from the Lone Star State. We've got Seattle, Washington. Electric Dragon is building Blackstone Fortress dudes. I am not yet building Blackstone Fortress dudes. I picked it up technically on Black Friday. I didn't mean to. I'm not usually a Black Friday person, but I went to my local shop on the day after Thanksgiving because they were having a 15% off sale, which at the time, for some reason, just didn't even register that it was Black Friday. And it wasn't like there was a line or anything. I just walked in the afternoon and I was like, hey, I want to buy Blackstone Fortress. So I picked that up. And I think the thing that's going to really move some of those pieces, at least for me, to the forefront of my painting queue is when they release the Kill Team data sheets for Blackstone Fortress. Now, I don't know if they're going to make Kill Team data sheets for every single model in Blackstone Fortress or only some models. We'll see, but there's a bunch of cool models in there that I'm really interested in, and I want to play them in Kill Team, but I want to see what comes out. You can kind of pretty easily assume that certain models are going to be, like that big kind of Chaos Black Legion guy. He's probably going to be a commander, probably, for Heretic Astartes, but maybe not. So that kind of stuff. I want to find that stuff out before I start building. Greetings from Finland. Hello from Eau Claire. Sneaking in a little live show at work, tee-hee. Good to see you, Emily. Carl Anger says hello from PAX Unplugged. I hope it's working. It's going well there. I'm interested in it. One of these years, I'm going to that. Maybe it's this year coming up. We'll see. But yeah, I'm actually in the process right now, to some degree, of starting to figure out my schedule for travel for 2019. I've already got my tickets and everything for LVO. So I'm definitely going to that in February. I'm obviously already going to AdeptiCon. We've got our tickets at work for the Gamma trade show in Reno. Be going to that. Trying to decide whether I'm going to Origins again this year. I'm not 100% sure. And then also, but I have picked up my tickets for Nova Open, so I am going to DC again in late August. So anyway, some travel again this year, and maybe potentially PAX Unplugged. I'm not sure. My sister-in-law lives there, so we may go visit her and also go do the thing. So yeah. We've got people putting their Blackstone Fortress stuff together in San Antonio. We've got hello from miserable England, but we have Warhammer World, so I'm not going to complain. Well, I get that. That makes sense. Cleveland, Clearwater, Lexington. What else have we got? Fishkill, New York. Blackpool, UK. Hello from Huntsville, Alabama. I'm a GW employee and a big fan. Well, thanks. I appreciate it. VJ Morph says that, by the way, tickets to the USA booked and paid for. See you all at TMX, 100%. So cool, yeah. TMX. I still haven't updated the website because I've been working on the T-shirt stuff. But TMX, the Tabletop Minions Expo 2019, is going to be the 8th and the 9th of June, 2019, here in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. So I will probably do a show like this about it soon or something like that. But if you're looking already, like I said, 8th and 9th, I don't think I did get the little pop-up graphic for it. I think, no, I did not. Here's last year's. That is the wrong time, and that's the old camera, so don't pay attention to that. All right, yeah, but it'll be 8th and 9th, 2019, and you'll be able to find more information about it at tabletopminions.org/TMX. Madrid, Spain. Got some more Ireland, some Berlin, Manchester. How big is TMX? That's a very good question. It is small. It is very, very small. Last year was like 65 people. It is a kind of a fun little sort of get-together wargaming party. There's no tournaments. Basically what happens is that people come and they bring... people come and they bring games that they want to run. And then they sign up ahead of time and they say, hey, I'm going to run Gaslands. The Noob Painter, who I don't know if I've seen yet so far today, he ran Gaslands last year. We've had people run Space Hulk. We've had people run Dark Age. We've had people run... Last year was there was a lot of Shadespire demoing going on, Flames of War, Malifaux, a lot of different stuff. And so GMs say, hey, I'll come and do demos. And sometimes it's even stuff that's not like stuff that you can get in stores. There's a guy the last 2 years that's come and run a big Lego war game, Star Wars. And so he's got like big AT-ATs and all kinds of cool stuff like that. And it's based off of, I don't know if it's his own homebrew rule set or if it's a modification of some other Lego set rule set. I know that there's a Lego rule set for miniatures called Brick Wars, I believe. I think that's right. Actually, there's a couple. There's also Mobile Frame Zero, I think it's called, which is more about like mecha kind of robots and stuff like that you make out of Legos. But yeah, so it's a place to come and learn new games. We also do some seminars there. I mean, again, really tiny. It's really tiny, but it's a lot of fun. We've got people that come from, some pretty long distances. This year, we'll have someone coming from Australia, so that's pretty cool. But yeah. And it's also really inexpensive because it's in Oshkosh, and if you want to come and stay, the Grunhagen Expo Center where the thing is, where the thing is held, there's super cheap rooms. They're like dorm-style rooms, but it's like $40 a night, so that's pretty cool. Anyway, Jay Cunningham says, I have only restarted Warhammer after 18 years, enjoying painting Death Guard. I've been watching all the painting guides, and they've been really, really helpful. So thank you to you and Sam. Yeah, no, I'm glad to hear it. I love to hear about people who are getting back into it and who are kind of, relearning the craft. And, 18 years ago, you could not go onto the internet and learn nearly as much about, the stuff that you wanted to learn about in relation to painting models. You couldn't have learned that stuff as easily 18 years ago. 18 years ago, it's 2000. YouTube didn't start till 2005 or 2006, I think, which blows my mind that it's been that long. It seems less. But then there's also times where I'm like, I can't imagine it not being around. It's interesting. So anyway, Board Game Maniacs says, "Are you using your DSLR, Adam, for the shoot?" I'm using. It's not technically a DSLR. It's what's called a mirrorless camera. It's a Lumix G7. It's a Panasonic Micro Four Thirds camera. It's an inexpensive one, and it's. I mean, it's the same system that I use for shooting my normal videos, but it's the inexpensive version. It's one of my second cameras, actually. Well, yeah. I have three. I have two of these, and then I have a bigger camera that I use for the shoots, and that's a GH5, Panasonic Lumix GH5. But this is, I basically never use three cameras almost ever in any of my videos. So I was like, well, I've got this extra camera, which is nice to have a backup. And I'm like, I should see if I could hook this up. And then I bought this thing from Elgato, which is the company that does the majority of the streaming hardware. Capture cards and stuff like that, and they have this little thing that looks like a really big thumb drive, and it's called a cam link, and you plug HDMI into one side, and the other side goes into your computer via USB 3, and it just all of a sudden thinks that it's a webcam, and it works out pretty well, actually. So yeah, I've been real happy with it. George says, been looking for a Mecha Skirmish game, and Mobile Frame Zero keeps catching my eye. I mean, there's a lot of benefit to, I think, the concept of, because it's a, well, I think you can buy it printed, but it's mainly a PDF style game that you can get, and then you use Legos, and it's a pretty robust system from what I have seen. So yeah, definitely. Uncle Adam, since you like building and miniatures, are you a fan of Legos? I don't own any Legos these days, but I used to. When I was a kid, obviously, yeah, I was a big fan. I loved to go and get like some new set, like a Lego police station, and then go through all the instructions and build it exactly perfectly the way they wanted it, and all that kind of stuff, and then play with it and do some stuff. And then I would start to modify it and be like, well, what if we put another room up here, or that kind of stuff, and mess with it. And so that was a lot of fun. But as an adult now, I've put most of my what would normally be Lego time or whatever more into miniatures and that kind of stuff. So yeah. Jeremiah says, back into the hobby after 16 years. Your videos have made my life so much easier. I have a question about wet palettes. Have you ever used Flow Improver with one? I mean, yeah, if you need to, with a specific color, or something like that, if you need to make it so that it's, especially for so there's like Flow Improver, which is some people will just use water. And Flow Improver is like fancier water to some degree, and some people swear by Flow Improver for blending. Other people swear by like a drying retardant kind of stuff, and I can't remember what the heck that's called. But like there's different companies make these different things, which make it so that acrylic paints don't dry so quickly. And then some people swear by that for blending. I personally don't frequently use either, but that's kind of just more my painting style. Because I'm not really getting into display painting, I don't do a ton of brush blending. I do some, but it's usually very simple, very quick, in small areas. If you want to have something be workable for a longer time, it's important to try to use that kind of stuff. But I do know that Sam uses like Flow Improver and sometimes drying retardant as well for some of his stuff, but he does a lot more wet blending, obviously a lot more display stuff too. So yeah. Jesse Daniels says, did you use Black Friday to buy a new lens for the camera? I did not. No. Eventually I may pick a new one up. Because like I said, this one, it's working out fine, but it's also the same exact lens that I use for the normal Friday videos. So I have to pop it off of this and then put it on that other camera at the studio. So, but right now I can handle that. It's fine. Gary McNally says, the Age of Sigmar Skirmish is very underrated. If you're looking for something skirmish size like the fantasy angle, I'd highly recommend it. I own it. It's a real thin little book. It was like, what, 10 or 15 bucks. It's not bad. I kind of wish, I'm hoping that they almost make like a kill team for fantasy, like a kill team for Sigmar, something like that. I don't know if it'll be, maybe it'll be like the new Mordheim. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how that's going to go. But it's a cool, yeah, we'll see how it goes. It's I've played it a little bit and I've been like, yeah, that's sort of cool, but it just for some reason it hasn't quite struck me. JP, excuse me, JP Got Rocket says, just got 3 shirts and now he comes out with the Ramon style tee. My only other vice aside from gaming, beer, snowboarding, and beer and gaming is punk rock music. Sorry, I can't come out with all the t-shirts at the same time because I didn't have the idea until actually probably a couple months ago. So yeah, that's a I'll talk a little bit about the shirt a little bit later on. I am technically wearing it, but it's hard to see in this particular shot. But you'll see some other pictures. George says, does anyone have a preferred brand of airbrush paints? I'm thinking of taking the plunge on airbrushing, but wasn't sure about which paints to use / purchase. I personally am a big fan of, probably my favorite airbrush paint is probably going to be Vallejo's paints. Vallejo has 2 main lines of their paint. They have the model color, which is more military and scale modeling style colors, more realistic colors. And then there's game color, and that's the brighter, fancier, whatever, more colorful colors. For both of those color sets, they also have an air version of that. So there's model color air and game color air. And those are pre-thinned and all that kind of stuff, and they work out well. Those are probably my favorite airbrush paints. I use tons and tons of them. Yeah, so that's me personally, but other people, like the other stuff. Some people have no problem at all just basically thinning regular paints, and that's fine. Some paints are easier to thin than others. I find that the GW paints, because they're in the pot, if you've still got them in the pots, which I still do, they are harder to thin because they're hard to get out of the pot and then also thin it, But there are plenty of people now that are taking their GW paints out of the pots, putting them in squeeze bottles, and then you could squeeze some squeeze bottle into the cup of your airbrush and then thin it there before you start spraying, and you see how that works out. But yeah. So yeah, it definitely, we'll see how it goes. Rael says, what have you signed up for in AdeptiCon? I'm running 2 events. I'm running one event about the branding / content / kind of digital strategy for YouTube channels. And that one's almost sold out. And then the other one is more the technical stuff, like the camera stuff and editing and, audio and stuff like that. And that one's more than half sold out. So I'm running those 2 events, but I did sign up for an event, and it is about how to put hairdos on Space Marines, basically. I think that's maybe technically the title of it, but it'll be I'm assuming using, green stuff, not liquid green stuff, but regular green stuff, and doing, sticking the stuff on and making hair and trying to learn how to sculpt that, which I would like to do in some situations. I don't want to put the hair on the helmet. That would be funny, but wrong. I'm thinking more like on your sergeants and stuff like that, where they take the helmet off and whatever. And again, I think it would also be cool to be able to modify, any kind of model and go, what if this person had a different hairdo? So going to learn that. That's the only seminar that I'm signed up for. I'm going to be in the GW Press thing, a show or whatever, I'm going to be attending it on Wednesday night, which is technically kind of before the first day of the show. So I've signed up for that too. That's going to be kind of cool. Moskatiri says, Kill Team for Age of Sigmar is my number 1 want. Yeah, I think that would be a lot of fun. Yeah, definitely. What else here? Jeremiah says, I'm waiting for squeeze bottles to transfer my GW paints. It's an amazing idea. Yeah, I haven't gone down that road yet, partially because I don't know. I don't like dry brushing from a squeeze bottle. So I end up using a lot of the colors from GW for dry brushing. And then for normal base painting, I use a bunch of other kind of more squeeze bottle-y colors, like stuff from Reaper, stuff from Secret Weapons, stuff from Vallejo. But yeah, when it comes to, and I also don't like using washes from a squeeze bottle either. I like to dip into the pot for my washes and then go to town. So that's why I don't generally do that. But yeah, So we'll see how it goes. Frosty Dog says, "Hey Adam, long time since I was able to catch the show. All my minis managed to survive the massive earthquake this last Friday." Well, that's good to hear. I'm glad to hear it. Yeah, I've been hearing about the big earthquake. I'm assuming by saying Frosty Dog, we're talking about Alaska up near Anchorage. So yeah, I'm glad to hear that you and your models are safe. Let me see. Hardest part is transferring the paint. Done it a couple test runs. The bottles I bought were 20mm ones and only ended up half full, waiting for the 10mm. Yeah, if the bottles are too big, then you're going to have a lot of air in there, I guess, probably, or something, and that could be problematic. But you can buy the bottles, from what I understand, like online in a lot of different places. Mr. Mendeleev says, "Hey, how you doing? Does wandering in convention make you feel like the nerd version of a rock star, taking pictures of the fans, signing on drunk dudes' bellies?" I have never signed on anyone's stomach, drunk or otherwise. But I have signed some T-shirts before. I've signed some. People have had me sign their codex before, which is lovely. Pictures and stuff. I always enjoy meeting the viewers and everything, and it's a lot of fun. So yeah, I mean, it's always a good time. That's one of the reasons why I like to go to the conventions, is to be able to kind of hang out and talk directly with you guys. So also I like buying stuff, and that kind of junk. So there's that too. JP Got Rocket says, "Do you think you'll run into Mel from the terrain tutor at Adepticon?" I mean, if he's there, we probably will. I've not ever met him in person. We've chatted online a bunch. But yeah, if he's going to Adepticon this year, then it would be nice to see him. So yeah. What else have we got? Andrew Watson says, 12 decals away from finishing my human Blood Bowl team, new to the hobby. Looking at the Sepulchral Guard skeletons for my next task. Do I copy Sam's? Well, that's up to you. I have not yet painted my Sepulchral Guard. I need to do that. They are behind my orc guys, whose names I forget in the Shadespire. But those guys are built. So, the orcs are built. And I've never painted orcs before. I've painted plenty of skeletons before. But I've never painted orcs before. You could if you wanted to. I've got a video on the channel, quick and easy how to paint your skeleton horde. The Sepulchral Guard are only like 7 guys, so I would not really consider that to be a horde. But there are some good tips in there for how to quickly paint skeletons if you're looking for like a bit of a quicker thing. It's basically like a bone-colored primer, if you can find it. And there's lots of different ways to do that. And then sepia wash, and then bone-colored dry brush, and then maybe some white dry brush on the higher, top of the skull, top of the shoulders, top of the arms and stuff like that. And then go and paint all the rest of the stuff, like the swords and the shields and the clothes and, tatters really more. You don't usually generally see skeletons wearing actual clothes. But yeah, so that's kind of a quickie way to go that way. So yeah. VJ Morph says, "Never signed a fat guy's stomach. I think I can fix that at TMX." That's funny. Yeah, I don't. I mean, if you want, don't. It's cool, but it's good. Skylar Grimm says, "Adam, love your channel. It's helped me to try new things on my miniatures. I'm newish to the hobby, so thanks for the tips and tricks." You're welcome. Absolutely. I mean, that's the point. Is I'm trying to get new people in the hobby, so that's why I do this. Let's see here. MM says, "Why does Fabius Bile have a Chaos Star on his shoulder when he doesn't believe the Chaos Gods exist?" Maybe to fit in? Maybe so that the other Chaos guys don't make fun of him? That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know a ton about Fabius Bile. I know a lot of people call him Fabulous Bill, which is, weird. But, it's not as weird as calling Robuto Guliman, just calling him Bobby G. That makes a lot more sense. I've actually heard people, like designers from Games Workshop, say his name the way that I'm assuming they intended it. And I'm just like, yeah, that's a lot of. I'm going to keep calling him Bobby G. So yeah, but anyway, Fabius Bile, he's an interesting character. I think. I wish they would make a new sculpt. I'm going to be very honest with you. I wish they would make a new sculpt because the current sculpt is not great. I'm really hoping to see a lot of new chaos soon. I'm not holding my breath, but I am hoping to see a lot of new chaos soon. Like I said, this new chaos, the big chaos guy, he's not huge, but he's a chaos guy in the... he's almost maybe Primaris size, but not quite. but he's in the Blackstone Fortress. He's got a hammer, which is cool too, because chaos generally is not about hammers, but he's got a hammer, which is neat. He, like I said, he might end up just being a leader model if he is in Kill Team, but I have a suspicion he might be a commander. So if that's the case, I don't currently have a commander for my chaos Kill Team. So he would do the job. I'd be looking forward to it. Alexander, hey Adam, last show you said you've been playing Shadowrun. Do you have any stories from that time? I have played Shadowrun a long time ago, back in the day. Yeah, I haven't played in years. I played in the mid-90s. I lived with these two other guys down near the college, and we would play on Sunday nights with some other guys as well. I always played kind of like a... If you've ever seen the movie, or not the movie, the TV show Burn Notice that was on like USA, that show came way after I was playing Shadowrun, but my character was kind of like, he was like an espionage spy person who then all of a sudden everything like disappeared, and he didn't get burned per se, but all of a sudden, like, the place he'd been going to get his information and doing his thing and all this stuff, and the people he'd been interacting, they just disappeared, and it was just gone. And now he was kind of, and so he was always super hyper vigilant and whatever. But he was basically like a guy who shot people a lot. That was kind of, I forget exactly what the class in. He wasn't a street samurai because he wasn't into blades, but maybe he was considered that because he was just kind of a heavy that shot people, but he was also had lots of espionage and was super hyper vigilant, like slept sitting up in a chair with guns in both hands at all times, that kind of stuff. I was in my 20s, but it was fun. It was a fun game. I enjoyed it. A lot of dice, a lot of 6-siders. You throw, it's like you're playing orcs. Like a lot of 6-siders in that game, at least back then. Marcus says, finally got around to priming my Adeptus Titanicus stuff. Want to finish what I have before the upcoming releases next year. And to that, I also have a metric ton of terrain incoming. Yeah, that's sometimes the issue about getting into a new game, is all of a sudden you've got a lot of stuff that you've got to get through. If you've been in a game for a while and then you add some stuff to it, that's not so bad. But when you all of a sudden are like, hey, this is cool, I want to play it now. Let's say you switch to something like Malifaux, and you've been playing sci-fi stuff mostly, and now you're playing Malifaux. Not only are you like, okay, cool, I'm going to be painting these crews, and maybe the crews are quite small, 6, 7, 8, 9 figures, but then you also kind of need terrain, and frequently sci-fi terrain might not work. You know what I mean? So kind of like recognizing that ahead of time so that you don't go work yourself into a hole is not a bad idea. What else? Colby says, when I started the hobby, I was aware of your channel, but at the time I was far more interested in bat reps. Now I find I cannot possibly sit through a bat rep, and I love yours and Miniacs videos. That's cool. I mean, I don't watch a ton of bat reps. There are some that I definitely love to watch. I do enjoy watching. My favorites are probably going to be Tabletop Tactics. But again, it's just because I think I like the personality of those guys. I think they're a lot of fun. And so, yeah, definitely that. But I generally don't watch bat reps to learn strategy, because I just like to play to have fun. I'm not great at strategy, so. But yeah, as far as focus is concerned, where you start out and you're interested in this way, when you get more and more interested in the hobby portion of it, then you watch more stuff that has to do with the hobby stuff. So I get that. That makes sense. Corvus Games Terrain says, "Hey, I'm still doing Conflict 47 very slowly. It's been bumped back in the paint queue. I've got." What is it? I've got a Sherman T built, but I need to do a little bit more modification to it before I start painting it. I've got, 3 of the guys in power armor done. I've got not a bunch, but probably half a dozen of just regular riflemen done, and so there's going to be a little bit more work. I've got one of the walkers done too, and I don't remember which one. Grizzly? Maybe a grizzly. Like built, not like painted, but built. So yeah, but then Kill Team happened, and then I ended up having, yeah, that's kind of where that's sort of what happens sometimes with the hobby in general, is that you have a tendency. The trick is to try to not constantly chase the new and the shiny, but sometimes a game really like flips your trigger, and then you're like, oh yeah, no, I'm going to have to put some time into that, and that's what it's been like with me for Kill Team. Played a little bit of Kill Team actually, I think since the last show. A friend of mine who lived out of town, moved away for a while, has moved back for a job, and him and his wife bought a house and everything, and he's a good painter as well, and enjoys playing, and he was interested in learning about Kill Team, so he brought some of his Primaris guys, really nicely painted, and also decals on the shoulder pad. So kudos to Ben for that, because man, I am still not, I'm still not decals on the shoulder pad guy yet. That is hard, but he's been doing well with that stuff. And then I ran. What did I run? He's going to start putting more time into building a Kill Team for his Adeptus Mechanicus. What the heck did I run? Oh, I ran my Death Guard. Right. So yeah. But it was a good time, and yeah, we had, and he picked up the book. Because the thing is that my local shop still had like at least a couple of copies of the book and a couple of copies of the original starter too for Kill Team, and so he picked up the book and he picked up the Commander book, and so we're going to be probably playing some more soon. You may even see him as a battle report here on the channel, because like I said, his stuff is really nice. Good painting. I see that moderator Matt is here a little bit. He is currently on the road. He's on assignment no, he's on vacation. So, but yeah, he's here. So it's always good to see moderator Matt. Atomic Dracula says first time catching the stream painting Gene Stealers. I think that the awesomeness of your username, Atomic Dracula, has messed up my face. So yeah, glad to see you here for the first time catching the stream. That is a pretty good username. Let me see here. What else have we got? Hey, Adam, have you seen the Reichbusters just funded on Kickstarter? Any thoughts? I saw Reichbusters at Gen Con? It's either Gen Con or Origins. I think it was Gen Con. And really liked the look of the models. They're super, super cool. They're made by Mythic Games. It's kind of a gateway game. Like, it's not a miniatures game where you have a bunch of terrain and you buy a bunch of models and different factions. It's a little bit more of that kind of gateway thing where it's a little bit more board game-ish, but still has amazing models. You're like playing on tiles, but it's still got the, range. It's not like most Cool Mini or not board games that come with a bunch of miniatures, where it's like Rising Sun or Blood Rage, where you're just like, well, this cool looking miniature is going to take over France or whatever. It's more along the lines of, you're moving from like tile to tile to room and that kind of stuff. A little bit more like it's a little bit more like Space Hulk, but without maybe the squares, kind of. Anyway, but yeah, models looked amazing. I don't know a ton about the game. I didn't get a chance to demo it. Like, honestly, most of the time that I walked by that booth, all the demos were full. So I'm sure that the Kickstarter did do very well. So yeah, I'm interested in looking at it. I don't know. I'm kind of trying to keep myself off the Kickstarters right now, so there's that, but I am definitely looking forward to hopefully seeing it in stores at some point. Let me see. Ad K says, battle reports that don't have a reality TV-esque talking directly to the camera in another room about the moves plans of the game are impossible to sit through. Zero entertainment value. I'm not trying to think what to do. Talking directly into the camera that don't. Okay, so you're saying that you want bat reps where there's a person in the other room who's like explaining what they're doing. Okay, well, that's interesting. I haven't seen a ton of those, to be honest with you. Yeah. DJ Todd P. Harris says, do you have a recommendation on a 3D printer? Thinking about buying a good quality, inexpensive one. From what I have been told by multiple people, if you're looking for good quality and inexpensive, I think it's called the Creality Ender 3. Try doing a YouTube or a Google search for that. It's like the word reality, but with like a C in the front, so it's like creator reality, Creality, and then I believe it's Ender 3 or 2. Ender 3 or 2. And it's supposed to be like $200 to $300, and it's supposed to be a really nice filament 3D printer. Wargamer Girl, she and her husband, they showed me a bunch of stuff at Valhalla that they had printed on that, I think, very printer, and I was really pretty impressed. I mean, admittedly, he had sanded some of it and sprayed some of it with some stuff, and you have to with filament, if you want it to look really nice, You do have to do some work to it. But yeah, they made these cool, like round, kind of like stone buildings, like a almost not like a sweat lodge or anything like that, but something that is round. And I think they were going to use them for orc huts, but they looked, in my opinion, a little nice for orcs. But they were very well done and looked great. So yeah, that's from what I understand. I'm honestly thinking about getting one myself just to give it a try and stuff, even though I've already got a couple 3D printers. But yeah, so but yeah, that's one of the good ones I've heard about. So yeah. Let's see here. Are you interested in the new option to play Shadespire cooperative against a big bad ogre? Wow, I don't think I've actually even heard of that. I haven't been paying as close to Shadespire lately, as I've just been playing normally. I haven't like, you know, on and off, but I haven't been like watching a lot of stuff. I'll have to check into that. That's really kind of cool. Bustin' Chop says Creality Ender 3, fantastic printer. See, there you go. I'm getting a bunch of people who are saying that's the one. Okay. Yeah, there you go. Excellent for terrain, we're hearing. That's also in good. I should probably buy one. Jamie Moresco says Wargaming Girl. It's Wargamer Girl technically, but yeah, I know who you're talking about. Has the right idea on battle reports. Highlights with cool music and narration. Yeah, true. They're very, like, I enjoy watching their battle reports quite a bit. Here's the downside, though, and this is the reason why a lot of people don't go that direction. They have told me that those battle reports take 40 hours to make. Like, you know, you film, like, I filmed one with them at Valhalla, and that was in, October? And they still haven't put it up yet, probably because it's going to take a really long time. Like, they, you know, and they both have day jobs and that stuff. You know, a lot of us, most of us here in the YouTubery have day jobs. When you look at somebody like Mini Wargaming, like, they don't do all that fancy stuff because they make 6 a week, you know what I mean, or something like that. So yeah, you know, it's this kind of balancing act between, you know, do you want to go super high production and then it takes you an incredibly long period of time, or do you want to crank stuff out and it depends on, I mean, at the end of the day, it depends on two things. It depends on, number one, like, what do you as a content creator enjoy? Like, what do you enjoy, not just to watch, but also to make? And then it also, to some degree, in most content creators, at least in the back of their mind, if not sometimes in the forefront of their mind, also, what do people want to watch? You know, like, Mini Wargaming's done just fine cranking out the types of battle reports that they've been putting out for the last, I don't know, what, decade or whatever they've been doing it. And so they've, you know, there are plenty of people who maybe don't watch their stuff because they're like, I don't like this style, but there are probably, it seems to be, a good deal of people who do. So, you know, it's kind of a horse apiece. All this stuff has been kind of going on up here with me with how I want to do my battle reports. Like, I've produced one with moderator Matt, which you've seen. Sam was also kind of there too. The second one hopefully will be coming soon. I just have to get I've told you guys this, I don't know how many times, the audio's goofed up and I have to do a bunch of work to make it work. But then hopefully this month, now that we're in December, I'm going to hopefully at least be filming a couple more. I did just actually yesterday, my studio is kind of a hallway, a room, and another room. And then there was a door kind of in the little hallway area that you come in that goes into another room that was not mine, and now it is mine. So my rent has gone up, but now I have gained another room that's about 9 by 12. And so I'm thinking about setting up my gaming table into that room and leaving it set up there. And then that's the bat rep room. Originally, I was just, like, when I did the first bat rep, I set up the table in the normal room where I normally film my normal Friday videos, but I'm thinking about doing that and moving it into the other room. Anyway, so it's moving forward, but the reason that I'm not just instantly like, okay, I'm going to just start shooting bat reps back in the day is because I'm conscious of, like, how I want to do it, where that kind of tipping point between spending a lot of time working on it versus, you know, all that, you know, the quality and what I like and what you people like and all that kind of stuff. It's a whole thing. So anyway, George says it's going to be in the December White Dwarf, apparently, which I'm assuming is referring to the Ogre Shadespire cooperative thing, which is very cool. I'll have to I'll have to talk to my local store and tell them they should get a copy of that White Dwarf, or maybe more than one, because maybe other people will be interested in it. X-Wing is pretty good. X-Wing is pretty good for watching. 40K is the most boring. It's boring enough to play, so watching it is just a punishment, says Marcus Sunbaum. Well, there's a lot of people that disagree with you on that, but that's your opinion, which is fine. There's a lot of people who like to watch golf. I'm not one of those people, but they put it on TV quite a bit. So yeah, I think it's interesting to see. I think there's a lot of people. I was having this conversation yesterday with somebody. I think there's a lot of people out there who watch battle reports but never play. Like they just, which and that's not bad in my opinion. If they find somebody who does battle reports they like and they watch battle reports and stuff, but they themselves never really play. Think about, most of the people on any given Sunday in America during football season are watching football. Don't actually play football. You know what I mean? Like, I had a boss when I worked at this place two jobs ago. No, that's not true. In between the last two jobs. This job that I currently have and then my previous job. I did a small stint at a place there, and this guy was probably in about early 60s, and his grandson was watching a lot of YouTube Minecraft videos because this kid was like 7. He's like, I don't understand. He's just watching other people play games all day. He just sits there and watches other people play games. And I said, you watch people play football all day Sunday during the football season. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, you don't play football. Your grandson plays Minecraft. You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand what the problem is here. I don't get the like, why are you watching other people play games? And then you go back to watching football. It's the same type of thing. So, but like I said, there's plenty of people I think that are out there just watching bat reps and not actually playing Malifaux, 40K, Rec Age, whatever. And that's cool. At least they're getting involved with it in some fashion, and maybe eventually someday they will play. Like, I can tell you right now that most people that I know that watch football a lot will probably never actually play football. Maybe like touch football or something like that, or flag football, maybe. But certainly not like strap on a helmet and start smashing into people. I hope, at least, because most people that I know I generally kind of like. So anyway, what else have we got? I kind of got off on a thing there. Please explain what is happening in battle reports, maybe even slow-mo of the action in progress. It would be great to see things happening and be explained why, and not so it's easier to learn. Gosh, I can't think of a good reason to use slow-mo necessarily in battle reports. They have a tendency to go slow enough as it is sometimes. Now, as far as the explaining what's going on, that I do totally get. I've got friends that I've talked to who don't play 40K, but they do watch. I've tried to watch battle reports before, and if you watch a battle report from somebody who just assumes that you already know all of this, it can be daunting. It can be very uninteresting. But generally, the audience that they're making their battle reports for is, in my opinion, the people who already play 40K and are looking for maybe strategy tips, or just looking to watch a game and enjoy watching a game, which is fine. But like the one that Matt and I did so far for Rec Age, the big benefit there is that Matt has demoed that game a billion times. So we were explaining things as best as we could and everything, and he was kind of basically almost as if giving a demo, and I was playing in the demo, so it worked out well. I don't know that I'll be able to do that for everything, but I'll see what I can pull off. Yeah, that's going to be a big deal. Jamie says, motion sickness. Please keep the camera... Oh, it moved. God, scrolling. Please keep the camera steady while doing battle reports. Moving, jumping camera can make bat reps unwatchable. If you go back and watch the bat rep that I did, this was back in, I don't know, I think it went up in June, maybe? Probably June. We filmed it in May. I've done this one bat rep so far for Rec Age. And if you go back and watch it, it's only 18 minutes long. It's a very short bat rep. But if you go back and watch it, I was using a gimbal to keep the camera on, which is heavy, and the next day my arm hurt. But that helps also to get rid of that shakiness. Another big deal, too, is that we use lapel mics. So one of the things I hate for bat reps is when you can hear the person who's holding the camera because it's right next to their face, but you can't hear the person who's across the table. And that drives me a little nuts. So I just decided to spend the money and buy lapel mics, like nice lapel mics, so that you can hear both of us. Now, I plugged them into a recorder, which I forgot to format the card before I ever used it, and so the audio is on the machine and you can hear it, but if I take the card out and plug it in my computer won't see it. So that's why the second one hasn't come out yet, because I have to actually, like old school, mixtape, hit play on the new recorder and then plug it into another recorder and hit record and just transfer it. But that's what's slowing me down, which again I apologize for. Gaddis Gaming says, is it better to film it and then do a voiceover of the battle reports? I feel it's a little bit more, the ones I've watched like that become a little bit more, I don't want to say clinical, but they do, like, one of the reasons I like the Tabletop Tactics guys is because they're having a good time while they're doing it. And they're like, and it's a dice roll, and they just got it, I'm only going to be able to do it if I can make a 6, and they roll a 6, and then there's like, yay, and there's like, and there's jokes, and there's having fun and that kind of stuff. Like, those are the ones that I enjoy to watch, and that's kind of what I sort of subscribe to as far as like what I want to be able to do with a bat rep. So yeah, there's that. I think it'll be interesting, but I'm still kind of working on it here. What else have we got? What do you think of GW's resuscitation? I do enjoy that word. Of the Lord of the Rings strategy battle game. It brings back lots of memories, but it doesn't seem to catch on in my area. Well, I can tell you that when I was at the Nova Open back in August, yes, late August, early September, there was a room there that was just Lord of the Rings. And they were having a tournament that was probably, I talked to a nice guy who was helping to run the tournament, and he was a fan of the show, and so we chatted for a while. I think he said that there was like at least 70 people playing in that tournament. So I think that there are pockets of it, like in most situations. Like, there are the big games where you can go to pretty much any game store and you'll probably find people who play it. But then there are other pockets in certain cities that you don't see in other cities. So you may not find Lord of the Rings in your neck of the woods, but you may find it in some other bigger city, or you may find it in even a smaller city, but you've got a bunch of people. The way that a lot of these games that are not the big ones, not your 40K, not your Age of Sigmar, the way that a lot of these games do get a foothold in certain areas is because of what they call in the industry one of two things. They either call them instigators or alpha gamers. And what it is that somebody gets a wild hair and decides, you know what, I'm going to start playing Dark Age, and they buy a bunch of models. And a lot of times what they do is they buy a bunch of models, and then they get the rest of their gaming group also involved. Maybe they buy, especially if it's a skirmish game, and I've talked about this a bunch of times, if it's a skirmish game, you can easily build 2 small forces for a skirmish game, and then teach guys at your club or teach guys in your group or whatever, and be like, here, you guys, you run these guys, and I'm going to run these guys, and I'm going to teach you how to play. And then eventually they get into it. Maybe they buy a small group, and then some other people, and then it just sort of expands. But it is literally, like, a lot of times one person who can kind of start that kind of ball rolling, and get it going in a certain area. So you might go to a shop and be like, so what do people play here? Like a lot of 40K and stuff like that? And they're like, yeah, there's some people who play 40K here, but we've got a lot of War Machine. Like, most everybody who comes in, like, we have tournaments of War Machine and there's like 25, 30 people. And you're like, really? That's weird, because nobody plays War Machine where I live, or whatever, So you get these weird pockets. And that's part of, like, with the Game 4 app that we make at my day job, is we're hoping to be able to kind of, you can find, because sometimes you don't know that this pocket is happening near you, and then you can sort of find out more about it and then be like, oh, I'm interested in that. A lot of times the store should be able to tell you, like, they want to sell you whatever, because they want to feed their kids and stuff like that. They want to feed their families. But if you go in there and they like, well, the game that gets played here the most is this. If you want to be able to find games at the local shop, then, there you go. But if you're like, yeah, but I hate that game, and I want to make it so that people start playing bolt action, well, that's going to be an uphill climb. And it might be a situation where you end up having to build 2 bolt action armies, and then go, hey, would you like to come and play at the shop? You meet somebody at the shop or whatever, and then you guys play, people come in and see it, and you can kind of, hopefully over time, foster a climate of that kind of thing happening in your local area. But yeah, that's difficult. Eric says that Lord of the Rings is basically miniatures Fight Club, and I'm assuming what you mean is that the first rule of Lord of the Rings is don't talk about Lord of the Rings. Maybe that's it. I don't know. Nate says, "Man, I kind of wish the Lord of the Rings stuff would catch on more, but I'm only just getting into Warhammer now and have a few too many unpainted minis already." That's also valid. Like you have to. I don't necessarily follow this sometimes. I'm trying to, but I don't follow it as well as I should. But focusing on a specific game if you can, that's one of the reasons why I love Kill Team is because I can, rather than be like work on just one army for a big army game and spend all my time painting 2,000 or 2,500 points, I can be like, well, I'm going to do some Necrons, and then I'm going to do some of this, and I'm going to do some of that. And it's that whole kind of buffet where I can try a bunch of stuff. That's really nice. But when you decide that you're going to try to play 6 different big army games, then you can easily get overwhelmed and then be like, I'm just going to go play video games. And then you've got a basement full of plastic and lead. So, that's the thing to try to watch out for. VJ Morph says, the new Osmo Pocket looks amazing. 4K gimbal pocket cam. Going to get one of those for filming. Yes, I am. I've already ordered it. It will be here on the 15th. I saw the videos starting to come out about that thing, and I was just like, oh, geez. And it's so small, and you just plug it into your phone. For those of you that aren't into dumb and tech junk like me, a gimbal is this little doohickey that's like it keeps the camera straight. So you might move around, but the camera stays. It's kind of like a chicken's head. If you ever held a chicken and then moved it around, its head stays still and the rest of the body gets all wiggly. I don't know why, but they do. They're trying to look at stuff, I guess. Maybe look for bugs. But anyway, so this is the same type of thing with these gimbals. And I have a big one that I can put like a big camera on, and it's heavy. This thing is, I don't know, if you took like people don't smoke as much anymore. I don't smoke anymore, but I used to smoke. If you took a pack of cigarettes and cut it in half the long way, it's about that size. It is tiny, and it's got a little tiny camera on it, but it's 4K, 60 frames per second, all that stuff. And then you can plug it into your phone. It's got like a adapter that sticks out the side. You can plug your phone into it. You've got a nice big screen, and you can do stuff and whatever. It's like the gimbal that DJI puts on their drones that fly around. It's just they put it on a stick, and then you can plug your phone into it, and boom. Anyway, so it's coming, it's being released on the 15th, and I ordered one from Best Buy, and so looking forward to it. And the thing that's going to be great about it is it's so tiny, it's going to be very easy for me to take to conventions. Like taking the camera like that I've got here and all that kind of stuff is hard to take to conventions where I have to fly. When I go to AdeptiCon, I bring way too much stuff because I drive. It's like a 3-hour drive for me, and that's not a problem. A little bit less, actually, 2.5, 2:45. But when I fly someplace, LVO, let's say, for example, I can't bring a ton of stuff in luggage. It's just a pain, But with this little tiny camera thing that's going to still take decent quality and everything like that, I'm looking forward to getting it. So anyway, what else have we got? What time is it? It's almost 10. All right. I should, I suppose, talk a little bit about one of today's many subjects. So I've had this merch bunker for a while where you can buy shirts to help support the channel. You've seen the Live, Laugh, Blood for the Blood God. You've seen the Get Slain. There's like 5 different shirts in there right now, and you can find all kinds of different stuff there. They come in different sizes and different colors to some degree, and you can also order from if you're in the U.S., you can order from the U.S. shirts, but if you are outside the U.S., you can order from the EU facility, and then you don't get dinged on shipping as much, which is really nice. So I decided it was time I needed to make some more shirts, and I've been a fan of certain types of music in the past, and so there's a classic shirt design for a band that may or may not be called the Ramones. And so I decided I just had this idea, it just kind of popped into my head like most of my good ideas, hopefully, do. And so I designed this shirt, and you can see it. Actually, if you probably scroll down right now in the video, you'll probably see it down below the description and stuff like that. And it's right down there. But I got them printed. They're digitally printed, but they're really nice quality, all the other stuff that I've done so far. And I decided, like, I should probably get someone to take some nice pictures of the shirt, not just like laying on the ground or whatever, or like on a mannequin or whatever. Like, I'll do some stuff. So I've got a friend who's a pro photographer, and so I paid her. And yesterday we did a little video shoot. And because it's kind of a punk rock style shirt, I wanted to kind of have like a punk rock looking image. This is a local bar that I'm a big fan of. It's owned by some friends of mine, and their bathroom is about as punk rock as it gets. So yeah, so this is the Pa-Chow, the Hey Ho Let's Pa-Chow shirt. And it says Hobby Hero, and it says games should be fun. And it's got the Tabletop Minions logo down there by the bird, the little banner that's coming out of the bird's mouth. That's kind of a modification of the Grand Seal of the United States or whatever. He's holding some paintbrushes in one of his talons, and the little banner says "Thanks for watching," and then it says Pa-Chow. But yeah, so we did this kind of photo shoot in the bathroom at the bar. And that's me priming some models, and then this is a shot we did in the studio too, so you can kind of see what it looks like. Yeah, they turned out pretty well. I mean, the shirt turned out great. The pictures turned out pretty well. She did good work. I'm not a great model, I don't think, frankly. So there's that. But yeah, so if you're interested, these shirts, there's going to be more shirts coming. I'm going to be doing well, you can't see me because I don't have the camera on right now. Okay. I'm going to be doing a Nick Raimondo shirt coming soon as well. But these two here, these are, it's just this shirt here, but there's just two different pictures of it, so you can kind of check it out. Yeah, it was a lot of fun to make. It took some time, but it's a cool shirt, and it turned out real well. Like I said, it's nice and big, and the white, you can get it. I think it's only on, if I remember correctly, I think it's only on black, because that's kind of the classic style for this shirt. Yeah, that's just kind of where that's at. But yeah, so that's kind of what we're doing. Daniel says, try to order some t-shirts. The shipping was calculated per different shirt and only discounted for multiple shirts of the same print. Made postage to Australia prohibitive. Yeah, the postage to Australia in general is prohibitive. And you're right, they do, like if you ordered 4 different designs, they don't discount, sadly, for each one. If you ordered 4 of the same design, then they give you a discount on shipping, which is dumb. And sadly, there's nothing I can do about that. If you're ordering from Australia, make sure to be ordering the EU version of the shirt. Now, the new shirt here, this one, the Pa-Chow shirt, the company that I'm working with, which is Teespring, that does these shirts and stuff like that, they are integrated in with YouTube. So that's why it shows up on the page in YouTube now. They're like a partner with YouTube. And they've recently made it so like this new shirt that I've designed is set up as a global shirt, which means that instead of me having to make a US version and an EU version, I make one version, and then the website figures out whether you, as the viewer who's coming to the website, is in the US or outside the US, which is the way it should have been all along, but that's whatever. So, yeah, so that's kind of where that's going. But the shipping's a pain, I'm not going to lie. But shipping to Australia from a lot of places in this side of is difficult. Shipping's just expensive in general these days, and I can't control the shipping price at all. I have marked these, like a lot of the other shirts that I see on Teespring are generally $4 more expensive, and I don't understand why. So I've got the prices set low, and I think that's going to work out well. So anyway. Adam Garza says, looks like you're there to clean it, meaning the bathroom. And I was trying to make it look like I was priming models, but that picture maybe didn't quite come across. You can see I've got a Primaris Ancient that I'm holding in my hand there, and then I've got some of my beloved Krylon camo in the other hand. Yeah, that didn't come out quite, like that kind of maybe visual didn't come out quite as well, but it's not too bad. Toilet looks like it smells pretty punky. It was actually fine, but again, it was early in the day. It was like right after they opened, so it was pretty clean. Gary Doyle says, any chance of coffee mugs being made? Would need one of them. They do actually, that company, Teespring, they do coffee mugs. Actually, they've recently added a bunch of new features or products. They've added embroidered hats, both like mesh back, snapback, something else, and also now like knit caps, like a beanie, not a beanie, but like a knit cap, like a winter coat or cap, and then you can embroider on it. So I'm looking into doing that as well. They've also got like duffel bags now and backpacks and fleece blankets and all kinds of crazy stuff. So I'll be adding some things like that too, but yeah. We'll see how they go. Where else are we at here? Looks really cool. Punk rock meets nerd. Yeah, I try to do that. If you're going to model a T-shirt on a band, it's hard to do better than the Ramones. I kind of agree there too. Yeah. Teespring is usually pretty good. I've have some of their tees. Yeah, I always make sure when I come up with a new design, one of the things that slows things down a bit is when I come up with a new design, I always order it from them so I can see it in person, so I can tell whether the quality's good. And I've been really happy with the quality of all the other shirts that I've gotten from them, because every other shirt that I've made, I've gotten printed from them before I put it on the store. So the Blood for the Blood God one, the Get Slain, the Uncle Adam Say Pa-Chow, which is the kind of the Frankie Says Relax kind of thing from Frankie Goes to Hollywood. What were the other two that I've got? I'm having a hard time remembering. My brain's not working great this morning. But I've like all the other shirts that I have done, I've always made sure that I get a copy before I even start telling people about it, because I want to make sure that the print quality is good, and also because there could be some sort of mistranslation between what I upload and what actually gets printed. There could be something that I didn't see that makes it look weird, so I always want to check for that. And I'm really happy with the quality on these. So yeah. Jason says, I thought you were holding a tattoo gun. That's a terrible place to do a tattoo, I would assume. In the bathroom? Not a good idea. Also, I get that because I was wearing the black kind of rubbery gloves, but I use those when I airbrush. I got them from the local farm supply store. You can just buy, like, they got them in all kinds of weird colors. Not weird. Like light blue, maybe like natural, which is kind of like a whatever, like kind of tan color. But they also have black ones. I'm like, oh, the black ones are cool. So I picked up some of those, and that works out well. So let me see. I thought you were about to graffiti tag the bathroom there. I had to let them know that was not my plan when I was when we were taking the pictures. JP Got Rocket says, and yet they have no fezzes. Yeah, no, I know. I don't know. I have had some conversations with the Fezzorama people who make the fezzes that I wear, and maybe someday, they do custom fezzes, so we could potentially work something out, but I'm not sure. VJ Morph says, need that shower curtain and throw pillow combo. Yeah, they make shower curtains and throw pillows as well. That's another thing that Teespring can create, which is weird. I actually have kicked around the idea of getting some just simple throw pillows with like the logo on it or something like that, just for the studio. I don't know that anybody else would care, but I would definitely do that. At least I'm thinking about it. Let me see here. I've been collecting and painting up a 40k and Age of Sigmar army for a few years now, says MM. Never played a game, though. Feels silly walking up to other people to shop as an adult. Well, I mean, talk to the store owner or, employees or whatever, the people there at the store, and say, is there a specific night that people come and play Age of Sigmar or 40k? Is there, maybe, like, I'm not a big tournament fan, but if I had a hard time meeting people or talking to people and stuff like that, I might go to a tournament and play, even though I'm assuming I'm going to lose probably all 3 or 4 or 5 or however many games it is. But at least you're going to meet other people who play and maybe be like, hey, let's play again maybe next week and not during a tournament or something like that. And they're like, yeah, that's cool. And then you trade email addresses or whatever the kids do these days. But yeah, that kind of stuff's not a bad idea. That can help you find people locally. And again, like I've said many times before, if you've got a smartphone, if you're looking for the Game 4 app, which is that's my day job, is I work for a company, we make apps, and one of the apps we made for ourselves is called Game 4, and it's about tabletop gaming, helping you find people in events and groups and clubs and stores in your local area. It's a Game for GAMEFOR. Look for it on your app store of choice, unless it's the Kindle one. We're not on Kindle, but we're on Amazon or we're on Android and iOS. So, yeah, definitely. Matthew Myers says, when Adam covered skirmish games, why didn't he mention Frostgrave? Because there's a lot of different skirmish games, but Frostgrave is a good game. I have 2 warbands and a lot of terrain, as it turns out, and that'll probably be something that I will be doing a battle report on as well. Although I may also potentially, Joseph McCullough, who wrote Frostgrave for Osprey, has now self-published his own game, which is called Rangers of Shadowdeep, or Ranger of Shadowdeep. Either Ranger or Rangers of Shadowdeep. He self-published it, so you can only get it like on, if you look at wargamevault.com or wargamesvault, do a Google search, you'll find it. But it's wargame or wargamesvault.com. It's a place where you can go to buy print on demand, like self-published books, but also PDFs and all that kind of stuff. And so he made this new game, which has got a very kind of Frostgrave kind of vibe, but instead of being a wizard and a big warband full of hench people, it is instead you're a ranger who's kind of running things, and you've got a smaller group of hench people. And it's a co-op game. You're not playing against each other. You are playing against monsters, whatever they could, there's skeletons, kobolds, trolls, all kinds of stuff, depends on the scenario. And there are rules in the book for running those, so like they're almost run by an AI. Like they turn one if they're doing this, and they do that, and if this is happening, then they do this. And there's just like a quick flow chart that says, well, is this guy doing this or this? Is this happening? Is there someone closer to him? That kind of stuff. And that's how you sort of make the monsters do their job. And the cool thing too is you can play it single player as well. So yeah, look it up if you can. It just came out. It's been out maybe less than a month, but if you can't get it in stores that I know of, it's pretty much only available online through like a print on demand type of place. Like I said, Wargames Vault or Wargame Vault. I don't remember which one it is. But yeah, that's a place you can get it, and you can either buy it as a PDF or you can buy it as a print on demand book. I actually just ordered the print on demand book. But he sent me a copy of the PDF to check out, and it's very cool. I really like it. I think there's also a deal where you can, if you want to, for the same price as the print-on-demand book, you can also get the PDF for free then. So, like, if you have that option. So it's cool. It's a neat game, and it reminds me of Frostgrave a good deal. But that would make sense because it's made by the same guy. I have exactly the same problem. I have 2 Age of Sigmar armies, but I have only played Skirmish once with a disinterested friend who preferred D&D. Well, I mean, you may also want to take a look at Rangers of Shadowdeep, because it's even more D&D-ish than Frostgrave is. Like, there's a lot of like interesting little skills and things like that you can add to your ranger and all kinds of stuff like that. So, and you've probably got the models or something close to it that you could use for that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's a neat game. As far as like trying to get somebody who's disinterested in miniatures to play miniatures, I wish I had that answer. Honestly, that's a tough one. Let me see here. Chris says, please do a bat rep for Rangers of Shadowdeep. That would be great. Honestly, I kicked around the idea of doing a bat rep. Like, when I first started reading through it and then found out you could play it single player, I was like, I could just do a single player bat rep. That might be kind of interesting. So yeah, I am definitely planning on doing something like that. That'd be cool. The only downside right now is that the scenarios and stuff are like, for the monsters are like, oh, you need kind of this monster, that monster, and this monster. And I have a lot of skeletons, but I don't have a lot of not skeletons. So I may have to look into going on eBay and trying to find some like pre-paint D&D monsters for some of those things, or try to find one of the scenarios that has the least amount of monsters and then try to crank out some monsters and make it happen. But yeah, that's kind of cool. It is very interesting to me, so I'm kind of looking at it that way. I'm also, not necessarily this week, but recently, or sorry, not necessarily last time we did the show, but maybe it was last time, but maybe it was time before, There was people asking about single player war games, and I've been doing a bunch of research on which types of war games and kind of gateway style war games, which ones have single player abilities. Which ones can you play single player if you're interested in, like, at least just learning the system better without having to have somebody else there, or if you're just kind of bored and you want to play a single player game and no one else is around, that's cool too. I have no problem with that. Anyway, so I'm working on that, and I'm going to turn that into a video hopefully soon. But I will definitely, again, mention Ranger or Rangers of Shadowdeep in that one as well, because it's single player. And I've recently found a bunch of other games that are also single player, which I didn't even know. So that's kind of cool. Shane Robertson says, how about stickers to cover the prescription labels of the pill bottles we use as painting holders for us old folks? Boop, boop, ba-doo. I don't know. From Teespring, because they make stickers. How about? I get what you're saying. I always just peel the prescription label off of my pill bottles, but maybe I could see something like that. That'd be kind of cool. Rangers of Shadowdeep is found on drivethrurpg.com also. Yeah, drivethrurpg, RPG Now, Wargame or Wargames Download, all that stuff. They're all the same company. They're all a company called One Bookshelf Publishing, and it's a print on demand kind of self-publishing place. So you could, it's right on the front page if you go to the Wargames downloads Wargame Vault, Wargames Vault. The Shadows of Rangers of Shadowdeep is. You may not find it right on the front page for DriveThruRPG, but I'm pretty sure that, like, if you go look at DriveThruRPG, which you would assume is mostly RPGs, but you do a search for Rangers of Shadowdeep, you'll still find it anyway. Red Nova UK says, I like the fact that Blackstone can be played solo. Any other good solo games? Yes, there are. And you're right, that game can be played solo, but there's a bunch of different solo games, one of them being this Rangers of Shadowdeep. Alexander, can you explain how Rangers of Shadowdeep is played single player? Well, it's basically like you're playing co-op, except that there's just one of you. Like, no one plays the bad guys. The bad guys are run by a set of rules. So on every turn, you pick this bad guy, like this gnoll or troll or kobold or whatever, and then you look at the thing and go, okay, well, is he currently in combat? Yes or no? And it's like a flow chart. Does he do this? No. Okay, then he goes to the closest bad guy or closest good guy. Or is he closer to treasure? Well, then he goes and protects the treasure. And so it's almost like a set of interactions, rules for the monsters. So the monsters are run by this set of rules, and then when it's your turn to run your guys, you just do what you want to do with them. And then, you see what I'm saying? So it's not like you have to. It's not like in a game where you're playing both sides, because then you know what the other side's going to do. In this, you kind of know what the other side's going to do, because there's a set of rules that they follow, but you also have to try to work around those to some degree. So that's how it's played single player. But it's the same as if you were playing with 3 players. Each of you runs a warband and you're cooperative, but the monsters are still run by basically an AI, for lack of a better term. Do you attend the Wapaka tournament in Wisconsin? Cool name. Wapaka. It's called Wapaka because it's actually held in Wapaka, Wisconsin, which is not spelled that way, but it's close. I've been there before. I don't know if I'm going. So Wapaka used to be like this huge, like 100-person Warhammer Fantasy tournament in little tiny Wapaka, Wisconsin, that people would come from all over, including like overseas, and they would come and just play Warhammer Fantasy. Then Age of Sigmar came out, and there was much gnashing of teeth and whatnot from the community to some degree, and so that they started making Wapaka, where it was still just straight up miniatures. A lot of the people switched to Infinity. Then they started playing some 40K, and then there was also some Age of Sigmar, and there was a bunch of different stuff going on, and then it was still around 100 to 125 people. And then all of a sudden I noticed that this year they've decided that it's now just a straight up Age of Sigmar tournament. They're not doing all the other stuff. The guys who run Wapaka, at least one of the guys, his name is Joe Rogers, Raj, and he has a YouTube channel, which I can't think of the name of now. Wisco something or other. Wisco Tabletop? Wisco? Wisco short for Wisconsin. And because he's a local guy. Anyway, he also has a podcast and called Point Hammered, which has been around for a long time, and so they kind of ran a lot of that stuff. And he's now made a completely separate kind of convention just for Infinity, because that's his other big love. But now they're making WAPACA basically just Age of Sigmar. It's like a big Age of Sigmar tournament, which is interesting to me because, like I said, they had sort of spread out and doing a bunch of other stuff, but they're kind of going back to the roots now, and it's just, Age of Sigmar instead of fantasy, but it's just one tournament. So that's cool. I'm not going to play in it, but I may stop by and visit at some point. I think it's coming up in January, and for me, it's like a 45-minute drive, so it's not terrible. What else have we got? Hunter Cole says, I'm pretty new to painting in 40K. Do you know where to find good custom pieces for Space Marines? There's a bunch of different companies. A lot of them are Polish. There's a lot of companies that make really good resin stuff coming out of Poland, and I don't know why. I don't know if resin is cheaper there or something. I don't know. But like Max Mini is one. Puppets War is another one. Puppets War. When I said that, it sounded like Puppets Swore. I don't know what Puppets Swore is, but Puppets War, like they're having a war amongst puppets. Let's see, Max Mini, Puppets War. Spellcrow is a good one too. Spellcrow, which is spelled like spell and then crow. There's a bunch of different ones that make bits and things like that, custom stuff, predominantly aiming towards 40K. I don't know if Chapter House is still around. They used to do pretty good stuff. But yeah, basically if you just do like Google searches for custom 40K bits or custom 40K conversion, you'll probably find plenty of different companies that make that kind of stuff. And those of you who are in the chat, if you would like to help out and say, hey, these are also companies that I like to buy stuff from, fancy shoulder pads, whatever, that kind of stuff. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff in there. Let me see here. 12 Neef says the GW small starters that are like $40 are pretty good solo starters. Get 2 warbands, a mat, and directions on how to move and shoot, etc. Yeah, what's the one that's Death Guard and Primaris? It's like $40 and you get a decent amount of guys. It's not Tooth and Claw. I forget what that one's called, but that one's, like I said, it's like retails $40, but you get a decent amount of stuff. You probably get 60. I think you get $60 worth of models for $40 because the kits that come in it are like $4 $15 kits. So that would be $60, and instead you get it for $40. Plus you get some stuff. So yeah, that's a good one too. Cromlech is another good one. That's a good point. Yep, I forgot about Cromlech. DK Bringer says, hey, Uncle Adam, I missed almost the whole stream doing the painting Blackstone Fortress. There's a lot of people working on Blackstone Fortress and forgetting the time. Did you already talk about it? What's your opinion on that? Currently, the only thing I really said about Blackstone Fortress is I picked up a copy at my local shop on Black Friday, sort of unintentionally. Like, I'm not usually a big Black Friday guy, but that's when I bought it, and so I got 15% off, so that's cool. And I'm kind of waiting on doing anything much with it other than looking through it and that kind of stuff, because I'm waiting for them to release the Kill Team. They've said that they're going to be making special Kill Team data sheets for, and they have not said for all of this stuff, I don't believe. They haven't said they're going to do it. They haven't said they'll do it for all the stuff in the Blackstone Fortress box, but they have said they'll do it for figures from the Blackstone Fortress box, which leads me to believe that maybe some might not get some Kill Team love, as it were, and other ones will. I'm not sure. I would love it if they would make Kill Team stats for all the models in that box. That would be spectacular. But that's remains to be seen. So otherwise, I have not actually built in anything for that because I've been working on terrain. Speaking of which, I've been working on terrain. I don't have any good pictures because I did not think that far in advance. They're not done yet anyway, so that makes sense. But I have been working on 4 Kill Team battle reports. I bought a set of 3-dimensional plastic, like it's not a mat, it's like 3-dimensional plastic tiles that you play the game on, and it is from Secret Weapon Miniatures, and they're called Tablescapes. or Tilescapes, one of the two. Anyway, I bought the like wrecked urban landscape one, so it's streets and sidewalks and sewer grates and things like that, but it's been shelled, so there's a lot of damage and stuff like that, which I think looks cool. I primed them, I don't know, back when it still was decent outside and not the frozen hellscape it is right now, like, I don't know, 3-4 weeks ago. And then I also sprayed them, so I primed them black first with the Krylon black, because it's my favorite. The Krylon camouflage black, because it sticks really well to the plastic, has a good surface. Then I went over it again with a gray spray paint, because I'm like, well, it's streets, so they're kind of gray. And then I lightened up a little bit the sidewalks in comparison to the roads. I basically just went onto Google Earth. I went into Google Earth and looked at, sidewalks and roads in lots of other cities and just looked at how the color change was different. And even though, a lot of people will be like, well, that's because the road is asphalt and asphalt is black and the streets are concrete and concrete's like a tan or gray. Well, even in cities where the road and the sidewalk are concrete, you still get a darker color in the roads than you do on the sidewalk. And I think it's because of just rubber particulates coming off of tires after, millions and millions and millions of cars driving over them or whatever. So, because I've even looked here around town and I've been like, it looks to me very much like these two materials are exactly, or at least pretty close to the same, but the road is darker than the sidewalk. And like I said, I'm pretty sure it's because of the rubber. So that's why I decided to lighten up the sidewalks. I taped off, and airbrushed and things like that. And I've been adding some washes and colors with airbrush and things. And I'm going to start doing some, for lack of a better term, texturing. I'm going to, because it's a three-dimensional thing. They're already textured. But I want to kind of put, if you look at any given road that's been, around for enough years, there's just weird spots all over the place, whether it's like oil spots on the side of the road from where a car parked and then leaked oil, or just someone ran over gum, or who knows what, just weird points. So my next step, hopefully this afternoon, or this evening, it's almost going to be like rust painting, like when you use a sponge and you want to put rust on some sort of vehicle, except I'm going to try to do it bigger. And it's going to be a much more subtle sort of spottiness that I want to now add to the board, or to the boards, because there's 6 of them. And I'm going to run them 2 across by 3 across. So it's going to be a 2 foot by 3 foot, which is 24 inches by 36 inches, and the standard Kill Team board is 22 by 30, so it's almost the same size, pretty close. But that'll be what you'll see the first Kill Team battle reports on. It'll be the buildings that came in Kill Team plus some other stuff probably, and then that nice 3-dimensional, shelled out kind of concrete. And I'm looking forward to that. I think it's going to be cool. So when I get those done, I will put pictures in places and whatever, maybe talk about it here or whatever. But that's where the majority, after I got my Imperial Guard guys finished last week, then I switched over to trying to get further along on this stuff for the terrain, tiles. And I think they're going to, I've been real happy with them. So yeah. It'll be very interesting. Nate Hodge says, it would be hard for them to do kill team stats for the Man of Iron, considering he doesn't really have a faction to join. Well, the one thing that's interesting about Blackstone Fortress is that they didn't come with stats for kill team, but the game did come with all the stats you would need for 40k. So there's a book that comes in that box that is all the stats for 40k for each of those models. So if you want to use those models in your 40k games, they already have that dialed in. And the Man of Iron, which is UR025 or whatever his name is, he technically is AdMech. He's Adeptus Mechanicus, because he's been tricking people for thousands and thousands of years that he's just a simple servitor that works for the Adeptus Mechanicus. For those of you that haven't been paying attention or don't know much about 40k stuff or whatever, that's totally fine. Way before the Imperium came around, there was the time of strife, and there was also the Dark Age of technology. The Dark Age of technology refers to when humans decided to make AIs and put them in robot bodies, and then those robot bodies with AIs in them was like, we don't really like you guys. And then there was a big battle between AIs and robot people. And the reason that robots in 40k always have a human component, like servitors have basically kind of vat grown brains that they then put into these kind of robot bodies, and there's a bunch of like restrictions on them and all that kind of stuff, is because of what they learned from building AIs and then having them attack them, which was bad. So the robots that rebelled with the AIs were known as Men of Iron, and so they were all killed and destroyed, 30,000 years ago, before the Imperium. Except evidently not, because there are still some that are running around. So this figure from Blackstone Fortress, this UR-025, the kind of the big robot guy with like a big gun or gun for a hand on one side, he has an Aquila like on his chest, and he has been going around pretending that he's a servitor, working for the AdMech and going and doing this and going and doing that. But he's actually just hiding in plain sight, and he has been alive as a AI robot for like 30,000 years, because he was from, or at least 25,000. He's older than the Imperium. So that's a very interesting kind of story that they've put into this one figure in this kind of gateway board game sort of thing. And yeah, so technically, if you look at the current 40K datasheet for him, his faction keyword is Adeptus Mechanicus, because he pretends that he works for them, sort of. So yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how they do that with Kill Team. But the stats for him in the 40K were basically like, oh yeah, he's just kind of like a big killer robot guy. But I don't remember there being any like really weird like special rules, but it was like a week ago that I really looked, so I'll have to sit back and look again. So he would be a hoot to add to my Adeptus Mechanicus Kill Team when I get them done. Matthew Phillips says, would love to see your Imperial Guard paint jobs. I'm gonna, maybe even this afternoon or this evening or sometime this week, I'm gonna try to shoot some decent pictures of them since they're recently finished, and then put them up maybe in the Paint Showcase Club or something like that. I don't know. I did, halfway through the job, I realized that I had 5 guys with grenade launchers, which you can never run 5 guys with grenade launchers ever. The max you could run would be 4. Anyway, so maybe he's just an extra guy for the roster or whatever, or I'll do something else with him. But yeah, he's not going to really be able to do a job. Kevin Obard says, definitely AdMech. Dude has an Aquila on his chest. Clearly one of the good guys. See, yeah, if you've got an Aquila on your chest, you can't be a bad guy. Clearly loyal. Absolutely. Let's see here. Headhunter says, I wasn't planning on buying Blackstone Fortress until those cunning devils announced that there would be Kill Team stats. Shut up and take my Imperial credits. Yeah, honestly, I was kind of like, well, But when they said that there was going to be Kill Team stuff for it, I was like, well, all right. So, and I got it 15% off, or 15% off, because it was Black Friday. Mr. Mendeleev says, thanks God you don't pronounce robots as Vince Venturella says it. I can't stand it. Does he say robots? Because I have used that term before, but it's usually just a term that we use amongst our friends. I think it comes from Futurama. I think that Zoidberg refers to Bender as a robot, but I could be wrong. VJ Morph says, oh well, 5 guys with launchers, time for the rule of cool. Maybe. That's potential. I can see that. Tom Ashley says, do you have some advice on sealing miniatures? Generally, I prefer, at this point, Tester's Dull Coat, which comes in a very small spray can. Like it's not like a big normal spray can, like a rattle can. It's a rattle can, but it's real short. It's maybe only, 5-6 inches tall. And it's not super cheap, but it's not super expensive. I like that stuff best. The conditions when you spray it have to be just right. Like you can't be too humid. I don't think it can be too cold. You could run that risk of potentially frosting some miniatures that way. But if you've got the decent, humidity and decent temperature, I think it's the nicest, flat surface. I generally like a nice flat surface when I paint my models. I don't want my models to look shiny. There's times when I want parts of my models to look shiny. If I've got a Nurgle something or other and he's got guts hanging out, I will flatten everything to make him real nice and flat and not shiny at all when I do the varnish. But then I will go back with a brush and some gloss varnish and make the entrails shiny so that they look wet. I'll do that, but generally I like all my stuff to be pretty, matte, as it were. I have recently picked up, but have not yet tried, it's from AK Interactive, which I had to order, I think, through eBay. I couldn't find it anywhere local. I think they're Spanish. It might be a Spanish company. But AK Interactive has something called Ultra Matte Varnish. And I had been hearing good things about it. And then Vince Venturella recently did a review of it, and he really enjoyed it. He says you can use it with an airbrush or a brush, which is cool. So I'm definitely going to be giving that a try. And I'm going to be firing it through an airbrush. But I'm going to be giving that a try on some stuff, because I've got actually a bunch of stuff I do. Like, now that it sucks outside, I can't really do my dull coat for a while. So, and I do not spray dull coat in the house. Like, every once in a great while if I get stuck or whatever, and I haven't done it in years, but I have used Normal's rattle can in the house. But, oh man, dull coat smells way worse than a normal spray paint. So I don't use that in the house at all. So I'm looking forward to trying out the AK Interactive stuff, because I've tried other matte varnishes and I don't find them to be as matte as I would like, but this is supposed to be really good. So, Colby S says, do you know much about Test of Honor by Warlord? I don't know a lot about it. I have a copy. It is all painted because I had a friend of mine who is a commission painter paint it for me, and but I have not yet played it. It's one of those things that I'm like, I do want to learn how to play it, and it's just, there's only so much time in the day. So there's that, yeah. Boshek says Hobby Lobby is your friend for the dull coat coupon. Yeah, if you can find it, that's the trick. Like, a lot of times when I go to Hobby Lobby and I'm just like, well, I'll get 40% off of a can of dull coat and then go home, they're out. Like, dull coat is sometimes hard to find in local stores because it is very popular. And these local stores, I don't know what it is, but they'll buy like 3. Like, oh, well, we're out of dull coat? Okay, buy 3 more cans. Well, then you're going to be out of dull coat in another week. So maybe buy more. I get the feeling, I know this is a fact with primers. A lot of times if primers sit on the shelf too long, they go bad. So a lot of stores don't want to order deep into primer. I don't think it's the case with like Army Painter, because I see like a lot of stores, they'll have a lot of Army Painter on their shelf, and I don't hear a lot of people saying when they use the colored Army Painter. I've rarely ever had anybody say, oh, it didn't work right. But I have gone to some store that I've never been to before, and I'm like, oh sweet, they've got this particular type of primer, like Armory primer, like in white. I used to use that once in a while, and you'd spray it on the model and you'd be like, that doesn't look right. And then you would just, like, way after it was dry, you would just touch it and just brush the paint off with your fingers. Like, it didn't stick at all. It was all powdery and crappy. And that's usually indicative of a can that's been sitting on a shelf for a long time. So I know primers don't last forever. And evidently, maybe that's why a lot of stores always really kind of order shallow for dull coat. Maybe dull coat doesn't last on a shelf. But I've had dull coat here in the house for, like, a long time, and it generally works, but the bottles are so small, the cans are so small that it doesn't last forever because you use it up and then you have to go buy another one. So I don't know. I'm assuming that's what they're doing, but yeah, we'll see. I've been liking the idea of being able to use a good airbrush matte spray varnish. So I'm really hoping this AK Interactive Ultra Matte, I'm really hoping that works out well. Like I said, Vince has already done a review about it. You can check it out on his Vince Venturella channel on YouTube, and he's a big fan. So definitely. Bastion says, if you have an airbrush and have difficulties getting testers dull coat, AK Interactive Ultra Matte Varnish is very good. There's another vote right there. Tyler says that Model Master's lusterless flat is the bee's knees. Well, that's good. Much flatter than anything else I have used, including testers. I'll have to try that. We've got a Hobby Town? Yeah, Hobby Town USA, and they have a lot of Model Masters stuff too. So I'll have to try to look up the lusterless flat. What I need to do is make a video where I just compare and contrast a bunch of different spray varnishes that are matte and show you which one's the most matte. I don't know how I would do that. I guess if I took a bunch of like the same crappy Space Marine on eBay, like if I just got a bunch of them that were all exactly the same, sprayed them all the same color, and then sprayed them all with a gloss that was the same manufacturer, and then they would all be equally glossy, and then I could spray them all with different mattes and see which one looks most matte. That might work. That might be, sadly, it might be a summer deal, might not be a winter deal, but it's something to think about. J Tick says, "Damn, drinking late brings me too late to the Tabletop Minions party." Well, we're glad to have you here, Jay. Let's see here. Tracy says, "Sealing, I've tried Testers, Vallejo, and Army Painter. Munitorium varnish I find the best. Slight satin finish, does not alter the color much at all. Highly recommended." Interesting. I think like satin finish for me is almost sometimes still too shiny. I generally prefer like a really flat, and I don't know why it is, but I do. Yeah. Brian Griffith says, "Yeah, I've seen the Army Painter spray cans keep practically forever." I don't know if it's just the propellant. I don't know if it's the actual paint itself, but man, I used to be real wary about buying spray, like hobby primer, like the stuff that you find at your game store or whatever. If you go to like I said, I've had cans of Krylon, like the camo stuff, that have been in the garage over the winter and probably frozen and thawed several times, and they've been fine. But I think that when you're as big of a company as Krylon or Rust-Oleum or any of those guys, you understand that people are going to keep spray cans in their garage and freeze over the summer, so they work a lot more to manufacture them to be able to handle that. Whereas smaller companies that are making certain types of primers for hobbyists, maybe not as much. So yeah. Boshek says, "Model Master's Lustreless Flat is what I'm currently using and can agree it is sweet. Also available at Hobby Lobby." Oh, I've never seen it at Hobby Lobby. Any plans for 2019 to attend a historical miniature convention such as Historicon? Maybe. I don't know. I mean, I know that there's a small historical miniatures convention in Appleton, Wisconsin, which is a little north of here. It's where I work. I drive there every day for work. And it's called TundraCon? I think it's called TundraCon, yes. And it's in like January. I went to that last year and kind of hung out and chit-chatted with people a little bit. I might go to that again this year. We might try running some stuff actually there. I don't know. We'll see. But it's small. I mean, it's maybe 100 people, maybe a little bit more. It's a 2-day thing. But I don't know. I'm interested in that kind of thing. Nearly every year I think to myself, oh, I should have gone to Little Wars, and I always end up missing it. There's something else that's happening. So Little Wars, if I remember correctly, is in the Illinois area. So I might try to do that one. But yeah, so... JP Got Rocket says, "Really, the bee's knees? Have you lost your mind? It's quite clearly the cat's pajamas." Well, I don't want to get involved in the middle of that. I don't know. I find it great that so much of what Right On Boy says, "I find it great that so much of what have in the UK finds its way over to the USA. Have made some great people who have made channels like yours. It makes a hobby world not so lonely." Yeah, I mean, just the simple fact of having YouTube and forums and like DACA and Bolter and Chainsword and all those kind of places. Just being able to communicate with other hobbyists, because sometimes it is hard to find people in your local area. It's really great, and be able to learn, this type of stuff, being able to learn about different materials, learn about different techniques and things like that. Whereas you used to have to try to find it either in magazines or in books, or talk to somebody else at the shop who'd already trial and errored or learned it from somebody else. I mean, it was a lot of word of mouth, frankly. And now, you can get into a hobby, and I'm not even just talking about like wargaming. I'm talking about, let's say you want to get into fishing or jet skiing or, I don't know, other things where you're maybe creating something or building something, or even you're not even doing a hobby. You're just trying to fix your shower, my parents' shower was leaking, and so I went over there and I pulled out my phone and I did some searching on YouTube until I found the same kind of roughly same style of faucet thingy, and then I figured out how to take it apart and then put a new washer in it, and then it fixed it. And I'm not a plumber, so that's kind of cool. I really enjoy that kind of stuff, and that's one of the reasons why I like this medium so much. Kelly says, "Hey, duck hunters leave cans of Krylon in the boat all winter to touch up boat scratches." Yeah, exactly. That's that's technically that's really what the people. I like to think that the Krylon camouflage paint was made specifically for me specifically, because it makes me so happy. But really, it was actually more for duck hunters and that kind of stuff. But it works really great for like what we like to do. So definitely. Nathan says, I always suggest that hobbyists store their rattle cans under the kitchen sink. Then they are out of the way, but weather and temperature protected. Yeah, I generally try to store mine in the basement, which is still pretty... I mean, things don't freeze down there. It's not necessarily toasty warm in the basement sometimes, It's like high 50s sometimes in the winter. So like sometimes when I'm sitting down there and hobbying, I have a heater that kind of radiates on me, a little plug-in one. But it doesn't freeze. So yeah, definitely. I try not to keep spray paint in the garage. Sometimes by mistake I do over the winter, but it's rare. McDuffman says, I'm going to buy a Slaaneshi army soon. What color primer should I use? My friend says, always use black, as if you miss a spot it acts as shading, but every video I watch uses a white primer when painting them. Primer is a dark art, frankly. It depends. It depends on which color you're going with. If you're going to try to paint your Slaaneshi folks kind of a pinkish purplish, which is kind of their color, I get that, then you may be interested in using white. Understanding that your friend is right. If you do miss a spot, that spot's going to be a white shadow, which doesn't make any sense. Also, a show from the 70s and 80s, and I never really enjoyed the white shadow. Anyway, but I wasn't into basketball. So, no. But in my opinion, what you want to do is, if you can, is try to find a color that's as close as possible that's already in a spray can, if you're going spray can. If you're going to be using airbrush to prime, then there are plenty of other colors out there that you can get from certain manufacturers that are primers, but they're already like kind of... I don't know if you can find a purple primer, now that I say that. Like there's blue, there's tan, like, bone color, brown, a lot of olive drabs, and kind of like military primers that are airbrush primers. I don't know if I've ever seen a purple airbrush primer, though. That's a good point. But also think about trying to use some other color, like maybe, like kind of purpley color. That's a tough one. Like I use a lot of weird colors for primer, but they match, or at least sort of match, the color of where I'm going. Like when I did my Imperial Guards, I primed them all with the Krylon like sand color. So they were all sand color, and then I just threw a wash on all the cloth parts of a sepia wash, and then I painted the shoulder pads and the helmets and the chest pieces and stuff like that olive drab, and did a little bit more stuff there, and then boom, you're kind of done, because that sand color was the primer, but it was also the base color for the most of the cloth on their uniform. Now, if I decided to make them some other type of, let's say I was going to make them some other type of, like a snow camo type Imperial Guard or something like that, I would obviously start with white. But it kind of depends, I don't know. That's a good question. For Slaanesh, that's a good one. You may end up wanting to go white and then doing your base coating with purple spray paint or purple airbrush paint, or using a brush. You could use that. And then I would definitely look into doing some glazes, because, again, if you do miss some spots, then you're going to be unhappy because you're going to have white shining through, which is going to look weird. So throwing a purple type wash or a purple glaze or something like that will kind of fill in any spots you may have missed and to make that go away. JP Got Rocket says, use Army Painter purple or pink. That's also a good point. Army Painter does have spray primers that are probably, I'm sure they make a purple one. So you could do that too. That's not a bad place to start. The Army Painter stuff is, like I said, it's very nice spray primer. It's a good deal more expensive than a lot of other primers, but it's also doing you a pretty good job. You know what I mean? Like, it's like $15 a can or something like that, but it's saving you a bunch of time because you're priming and base coating in one shot. So, got some more help here in the chat. Tamaya. I can never quite figure out how to pronounce that, though I am a fan of some of their stuff. I just bought some of their masking tape. They put out a pink primer, if that helps, says KMK Mains Paint. Sorry. Son of Mars says, wargaming and painting aren't hyper-competitive in nature. Well, Well, I mean, the wargaming part can be competitive if you go get into tournaments and stuff like that. Wargaming and painting aren't hyper-competitive in nature, so the hobby lends itself to more even-tempered people. We don't truck with nonsense like people behaving like fools, so there's that. Well, some people that's true. Some people, not as much. It depends. Like I try to not do that. I try to stay pretty even and not, like I don't make a lot of videos about controversy and stuff like that and whatever generally. That's just because that's just the way that I kind of go. But yeah, there are certainly some places in the industry where that's kind of a thing. So Slev says to cheat at Slanesh Demons, prime black, paint up Carel stone, which is I think kind of a grayish or tannish stone, and then wash with purple, wash several times. Yeah, I mean, there's something to be said for that kind of thing too. A long time ago, I did a video called Understanding Underpainting, and I've done that kind of thing quite a bit, where you prime black, and then I spray from above with like white primer, and that makes it like as if light is hitting the top and the shoulders, and you're basically adding in a light source by spraying straight down with your white. And I don't even spray. You spray straight down, but I actually kind of go a little bit more at a 45-degree angle. Like if this was my model, which is one of those storm vermins or whatever, I would maybe not spray straight down on him. I would spray more at a 45-degree angle and kind of go around, kind of orbit like that. And then more of the paint's going to all collect on the tops, but it will also start to fade as it goes down into those little underarm areas and all that stuff. Anyway, when you do that, you get this nice gradient that happens on there, and then you put whatever wash you're going to put on there, let's say purple, and then it will look like light purple that goes to real dark purple in all the shadows. And you could do that too. That's also not a bad way to do it. In some situations, if you're trying to make it pop a little bit more or be a little bit brighter purple and not go to so dark, well, then you maybe start with gray as the primer and then spray white. Or you start with black, but you then instead of spraying white at a 45-degree angle, maybe you go down even further and try to get it so it's only black in the deepest, darkest shadow parts underneath their arms or between their legs and stuff like that. It's up to you. It's a lot of ways that you can do that kind of stuff. Riot 54 says that Stynylrez from Badger. They do a dull pink for airbrushes. Oh, that's cool. I guess I haven't seen that. I've seen their metallics where it's like a bunch of different metallic colors and then a bunch of metallic washes that can go over it. And I know there's like a pink there, but I haven't seen it for the regular dull pink. That's interesting. Jesse Boyd says I did some Elf Blood Bowl dudes in purple, official colors, I suppose, and I used Krylon Color Master Gray Primer, and it turned out fine. Well, that's... there's a lot of people, that's the trick, is that everybody's kind of got their own way that they like to do, especially priming. Some people always would be like, nope, always black. Some people are like, nope, always white. Some people are always gray. I generally tailor my priming to the project, but I almost always try to find a prime that's as close to the base color that I'm going to need so that I can kind of save myself a step. But it depends on the model. And again, it also depends on the if you're painting a group of, let's say, Ultramarines for 40K, you're painting a group of Ultramarines, whether it's for Kill Team or you need a whole bunch of them, like for a full army, then I would definitely do your research and try to find a blue primer, which I did. They make an Ultramarine style blue primer for Vallejo, for an airbrush primer. So I can use that, fire it through my airbrush, prime and base coat the models in one step instead of having to do, primer and then base coat, which is great. But if I was doing an entire, let's say I was doing like my Malifaux guys, my Malifaux crew, they don't dress alike. Like those crews have a tendency to be very individualistic. So in that situation, what I did is I primed them all black and then I dusted them all from white from above. So now they have that fade going on. And then I do a lot of the painting with washes, specifically secret weapon washes or glazes, whatever. And then you go through and do that. And then you don't have to make a match. When you have that entire crew standing there next to each other, they don't all have the same color uniforms because they're all individuals. So you can kind of just sort of switch and go back and forth, but then they've still got that nice gradient. It works nice and makes it look like you know what you're doing because you've got some blending going on there, but you didn't actually blend anything. You just painted washes over the top of a gradient that you made with two different colors of rattle can or spray paint or whatever. Let me see here. Can I use the Mephisto red for primer and base coat? If it's probably, yeah. I mean, if it's the stuff that like GW sells, that's their certain color, because the GW has a limited in comparison to Army Painter, but they do have a line of colored primers. Yeah, you can totally use those. I mean, that's the point, is that they're using them. They make I'm pretty sure they make a spray can that's like a Death Guard color. I know they make a blue one. I'm pretty sure they make a red one as well, and some other ones. And if you just use those cans, they are designed to be primer and base coat in one. Just like, yeah. Zachary Campbell says, just one question: how do I keep my airbrush from sputtering water in the line? I'm not exactly sure what you mean by that. Like, there's water. If the water is coming from the compressor, if it's moisture that's coming from the compressor, then you need a moisture trap. And that's just an extra doohickey that you can get sometimes online, maybe at your local place, wherever, I don't know. Like mine came with one, and my compressor came with one. So the compressor's on the floor, and then there's a hose that goes up to this thing that I've got clamped to the side of my table, and it's like a little chamber. It's a little glass kind of thing or whatever. And it's got a button on the bottom. And so when it's under pressure, that button is pushed out, so it's not, and you can see, because it's glass, that there will be fluid in there sometimes. And so what you do is you have to push up on that bottom button, and then it sprays out the stuff onto the floor, which is a little gross, but I usually put a piece of paper towel underneath there. But moisture will sometimes collect in your compressor, and then you're right, it will come out sometimes through the line. So a moisture trap is designed to stop that. So if you don't have a moisture trap, you may want to look into getting one. Sometimes they're attached to the compressor. Sometimes, like mine, it's not attached to the compressor. You attach it to the table. I've even seen them. My very first airbrush, the moisture trap was it was on the bottom of the airbrush. It actually, like, the hose came up from the compressor, went into the moisture trap thing, which then was attached to the airbrush, and then there was like a button on the side, and then it's almost like a spit valve if you've ever played like trumpet or like trombone or any kind of brass like that. Moisture will collect, and so you got to get rid of it. But definitely moisture trap is the way to go. Army Painter Chaos Red is the best dang dark red base coat I've ever used, says Brian Griffith. Have I used it? I don't think I've used that. The only dark red primer style that I've ever used was Duplicolor, which you get at the auto parts store. And they make a red oxide sandable auto primer, and I've used that quite a bit. Like my very first 40K army in my Tau, I primed them all with this dark red oxide, and then I dusted them from above with like an orange from another rattle can, but actually designed for models. It's like I think it was for model cars. It was like a specific like Dodge color, like it was matched to Dodge like cars if you were making a Dodge model. And so, yeah, I sprayed that from above, and it worked nicely as a highlight over the top and everything, and they turned out cool. So, yeah. K-Mains Paint says, like the man says, a moisture trap is a good idea. Most times an air tank will accomplish the same thing. That's true, too. Like, my compressor doesn't have an air tank, so the moisture trap is much more important. If you have an air tank, then a lot of times the moisture stays in the tank, from what I understand, and eventually will probably evaporate in between airbrushing sessions. I don't know. I've also found it depends on how much airbrushing I'm doing. It also depends on how humid it is outside sometimes, or how humid it is in the basement in my case. But like recently when I was doing those 6 foot by foot tiles I was working on doing a bunch of those, I was airbrushing for probably a good hour, changing colors, doing a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and I noticed that my moisture trap filled up. Now, it didn't fill up, but it was at least half full. So when I did push the button on the bottom, a lot of stuff came out. And that's just, I don't know it's not oil, I don't think. It's just water. It's somehow the compressor, by the very idea of compressing, maybe, is then pulling moisture out of the air and whatever. I don't know, science. But yeah, it's the moisture trap is the way to go on that. If you are, because you're right, like if you have nothing in your airbrush at all, and you start to spray and water comes out, like sputtering on and off, then you've got moisture in your compressor. Like when I take my airbrush out of my ultrasonic cleaner, because I always keep my airbrush wet. In between uses, it sits in fluid all the time. And that's why I never, ever, ever have a clog in my airbrush. But some people say, oh, you should never do that. But it's been working for me for years, so that's what I do. Anyway, when I put it all back together again and then hook it up and then fire it up, I'm going to get water out of it. But that's because there's water in the airbrush. But once I get the water blown out, and it's all done, and now it's just straight air, if I come back in like 5 minutes, let's say before I start putting paint in there or whatever, and I spray again and I'm getting fluid again, that's moisture trapped in your compressor. So, let me see here. What else? Getting got a bug. Let's see here. JP Got Rockets. It goes on airlines to reduce acidity and moisture. It's an inline device, but after a while it needs to be replaced. Yeah, that's true too, from what I understand. Definitely. Electric Dragon says, I use 2 moisture traps, one at the compressor end of the hose and one at the brush. Oh, that's interesting. I should maybe look into that too. I haven't had a trouble with that particularly, but yeah. Gary McNally says, if you want a super specific color of paint, just go to an auto paint shop. They can mix your bespoke color there and then. I'm thinking of doing the same for some bespoke Zinch green primer. But can they do acrylics? I mean, I don't like if you go to, you said an auto paint play. Oh yeah, an auto paint shop's maybe a different story. Although, well, I don't know. I've never tried that. It's interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I generally work in acrylics, so if they can do that in acrylics at the store, that's really cool. Yeah, you could do some neat stuff like that. Interesting, yeah. Let me see here. What else have I got going on? Ryan says, when will have more bat wraps? Hopefully soon. Like I was talking about earlier, hopefully going to film some in December, and just got a new room added. I mean, it's not like I built a new room onto the studio. There was a room that was already attached to the studio, but someone else was using it, and then they stopped using it, and now I'm using it, and so, paying a little bit more in rent, but now I have more space, another 9x12 addition to the studio. And so that's probably going to become the bat rep room, most likely. And so, yeah, that's going to help, because otherwise I was going to have to set up the table in the normal studio area where I do the Friday videos and then move things around every time, which is doable because I've got one of those foldable 4x6 tables made by Terra. I think it's Terra, and it's and they're designed for wargamers. It's a 4x6 folding table that you can take with you and stuff like that. And I've been pretty happy with it. But anyway, so that's going to go up now in the new room, and then hopefully that'll help with the battle reports. And I'm also working on getting the terrain surface, the actual playing field finished, painted as well, which I was talking about earlier as well. That's using secret weapon terrain scapes, tile scapes, whatever the heck they're called. So it works out. Right On Boy says, I used a local hardware store, took in a pot of Xandri dust. They managed to make up 3 liters of it for a table and terrain I was making for my Steel Legion. Looked great. Yeah, I've seen people do that, like when they're getting latex type house paint for terrain, because a lot of people will use latex house paint for terrain because it makes the terrain stronger, because it's, kind of protects it a little bit better and all that kind of stuff. I've got a gallon of like black in the basement that I've used on and off for different projects. But yeah, I've seen people take in like pots before and say, this is the color I need to match, and then they can make it. I think that's really cool with the way the paint places can do that. Yeah. Let's see here. Uncle Adam, do you use a paint shaker for your pots of paint? I just purchased a nail polish electric shaker and love it. I do. I have a paint shaker that I bought from on eBay. I don't think I can find it. Well, maybe, but if you do a search for Typhoon paint shaker, it's expensive. But what this guy does, I don't know if this is a side job for him or if he's retired and he's just doing this for fun, but he buys these specific, I don't know if they're designed to be paint shakers originally or if it's for something else, but he buys these machines, and they're, I don't know, yay big, and refurbishes them. So if you go online and if you do find Typhoon on eBay, Typhoon paint shaker, they'll always say refurbished. And that does not mean that this one didn't make it through the factory. This means that he bought it used, took it all apart, completely respray painted it, put a new label on it, did all this stuff, and then sells it that way. Redoes the electronics inside, everything. And you plug it into the wall, and it is powerful. It's not cheap. I think it was like $135, but it is very, very powerful. I'm having a little bit of trouble. The thing on the top that you actually put the paint, you sort of just... there's no switch to turn it on. Like a lot of those paint shakers that I see, like for nail salons, they have like a strap. So you put your bottle of nail salon nail polish, or you put your paint or whatever in there, tighten the strap down, and then flip the switch, and then it wiggles it back and forth. What this does is you just plug it in, and there's no switch on it, and then you take your paint bottle, not wash, because I guess you could, and you kind of press it down, and there's like this rubbery kind of cup on the top, and you press it down, and the act of pressing it makes the thing kick in, and then it just wiggles like crazy and vibrates, and it works pretty well. Like I haven't done any like actual tests where I've been like, well, let's see how screwed up this, or how separated this paint is, then how it looks like it's working when I look through the bottle, and it seems to work pretty well. It's expensive. I have found that it works best if I put it on the floor. If I try to put it on a table and then use it, it shakes the entire table and makes crap fall over. So that's not cool. So I keep it on the floor in the basement. And like I said, the rubber cup on the top is like, I don't know if he used like a liquid seal, flexi seal stuff on this thing, and because it's already come off, so that's kind of a bummer. I mean, the cup is still there, but the rubbery surface of it is peeled. So I'm mostly happy with it, but I haven't done like a full review or anything like that. But it's pretty cool. But if you look it up, you can kind of find it. But it's, like I said, also not cheap. Like I said, like $135. But from the videos that he posted, I was like, wow, this is really... It looks like, because I've got some paints that seem like really separated, and this has done some work, so it's been nice. Son of Mars says, I use my arm to shake my paints, keeps the blood pumping. Well, you could do that too, I'm sure, yeah. Oh gosh, it's a little after 11. I have gone a little longer than normal. I apologize. So anyway, I want to thank everybody for coming to the show and listen to me ramble on about T-shirts and primer and all that kind of stuff and snow. I'm going to have to go out and do some shoveling quick before we go to lunch at the in-laws, because otherwise I won't be able to get the car out. So yeah, if you're interested and you want to look like a cool guy hanging out in a punk rock bathroom or in a studio like that, and get yourself a Pa-Chow shirt. You can probably see it directly below this video for sale. Otherwise, you can go to here. You can go to bit.ly/merchbunker, and you can get that shirt and others. And that's always fun. So it helps to support the channel, and I appreciate it. Could be a good stocking stuffer or Christmas gift, or whatever. I don't know. And more shirts are on the way. There should be one with this guy on it eventually. It's in progress. Anyway, so again, we'll see you not next week, but the week after that, the every other Sunday show. And maybe, let's see, next convention I'm going to isn't till the Las Vegas Open, it looks like. So, well, maybe Wapaka, but probably Las Vegas Open. So if you're going to be at that, I'll see you there in person. Otherwise, have a good... I mean, I'll see you again before Christmas, but still, have a good 2 weeks. Let's just end it there. Have a good 2 weeks, and we'll see you later. Thanks for watching.